Let me tell you how I manifested my life. And I'm telling you, this is coming from, when I say humble beginnings, like I remember going to the grocery store and I would swipe my card and I would be like, please God, please don't let them embarrass me. I'm like, please let this card go through. I remember when I would go date men, this was because I went through a period of time where guys wouldn't even talk to me. Like, they wouldn't even look my way. I couldn't pay a guy to talk to me. That's why when people are like, oh, Shay, you had that experience because you're pretty. No, ma'am. No, I'm telling you, I had to change my vibration. I had to change it. So what happened, this is what I did, right? I started to write notes to myself over and over and over again. Like, I am beautiful. I am smart. I am worthy. I am lovable. Because when I was younger, I had people around me, people in my family, people close to me telling me all kinds of bad things about me. And I started to believe that about myself. I started to believe that I had to earn love because I would witness my father abuse my mother on a regular basis. So what happened was I linked up love hurts, that I had to earn love. And so in order for me to start changing my life, I had to start changing my mind, because I ended up, when I was in that abusive relationship with the man who was married, who lied about being married, I was so the D word that I didn't want to live. I did not want to be here. I hit rock bottom. And I got to a point where all I could do was lay on the floor and ask God to help me. So one day I'm sitting here and I'm driving, and it's on a Sunday, right? I left the house and I'm driving and I bumped into my church. And my church that I go to a metaphysical church, and it started teaching me how to align with God and to manifest my life. So then I started to do notes, right? Where I would write notes to myself over and over again all day long. Then I started to listen to audio where I was like reprogramming my mind, right? I would listen to audio that was doing affirmations. I would write in a journal every single night, Dear God letters. So I would do Dear God letters, things that I'm going through, things that I want, my goals and everything else. And then as everything around me was like, it seemed like it was falling apart, right? Like while I was going through the storm, I forced myself to stay focused on the life that I wanted. I focused not only on visualizing it, but I focused on what would it feel like? You know, like what will it feel like to be able to travel the world? Like what would it feel like to hold a passport? What would it feel like to go to the grocery store and be able to get whatever I wanted? What would it feel like to be married? And I would visualize talking to my husband every day. I would imagine like the way he would hug me, the way he would kiss me, all that. And I just was consistent. I didn't have a me, you know, because when you guys join D.I.V.A University and Love Diva, then I'm there to help remind you and guide you and make sure that you stay on your path and tell you step by step what you need to do. I didn't have that. I had to be that for myself. And I just kept staying diligent. I had like notes around me everywhere, reminding me how, and that's the thing. Stop calling yourself a single mom. Stop saying you don't have any money. Like I started changing the way I talked. I started changing my story. I started changing the way I feel. I was no longer a single mom. I had 2 kids, yes, but I was a single woman with the blessings in the form of children. And then I stopped calling myself a single woman. I started to call myself a married woman. I'm married. Even before I met my husband, I'm like, I'm a wife. I'm a wife. It's just a matter of time before my husband shows himself worthy. When I started to fall in love with me and I changed my identity, then my husband showed up. It doesn't happen the other way around, ladies. Before the money showed up, I said I was a millionaire before I became one. I would speak it. I would walk like it. I would act like it. When I had no money, I would go to expensive restaurants. I would go to expensive hotels and sit there like I was worthy. I would just be like, girl, you couldn't tell me nothing with my broke down clothes. You couldn't tell me nothing. Even if I only had like a few dollars in my checking account, I would do certain things to put myself in the feeling state of having what I wanted. I would take myself on dates. I would text, call me crazy, but y'all said y'all wanted D. I would text myself, hey, beautiful, how does Saturday night look like for a dinner date at such and such? And I would take myself out to dinner. And then I would have a notepad where I would write a conversation between me and my husband. I would listen to this song. D.I.V.A has a song, and she was, He Loves Me. It's giving me chills right now. And I would listen to that song. Whew. I would listen to that song, D.I.V.A. I would listen to that song over and over and over again. And it would remind me of the way I wanted to feel when my soulmate showed up. And it's interesting because here's the thing. I started from a place from not believing that it was going to happen, right? Because, you know, people always tell you like, oh, you're a single mom, no man's going to want you, or you know, this is wrong with you. And then as women, we're taught that we need to be overcritical of ourselves. So I was always critical of myself. My forehead, my no edges. I was like, am I too fat? Am I too short? Am I this or that? You know, like just always criticizing myself. And then eventually I got to a place where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start speaking into you the way your husband's going to start speaking into you. I knew I had to do it first in order to get my husband to be able to do it, in order to attract the man who would see me. That's what I really wanted. I always wanted somebody who was going to be my best friend and somebody who was going to see me. And so when my husband came into my life, like here's the crazy thing. Me and my husband were friends for a while. Like he was right there with me going through the knuckleheads that I was dating, all the while having feelings for me. He confessed his feelings and I was like, yeah, no, but you're just my friend. Like, God, I'm here pushing him. Like, I'm like, no, I'm closing the door to him even being an option. And all the while my soulmate was like right there. Now, thank goodness he wasn't just like, whatever, deuces. He was just being patient. He patiently waited for me. He wouldn't date anybody else. He never married anybody else because he always felt like I was his soulmate. And then one day, Spirit was talking to me and said, this is your husband. And I'm like, no, ma'am. No, sir, he's not. And I'm sitting here arguing with God, like after I'm doing all this manifesting things, right? And I'm like arguing with God, like, no, he's not my husband. He's not, you know, this, he's not that. He's not tall enough. He doesn't drive the right car. I'm like, here's the thing. So many things was hidden, right? Because sometimes we judge with our eyes. Because I'm like, he needs to make this amount of money. He needs to do that. Well, my husband he was in the Air Force, right? But he also was a saver. What I didn't know is that my best friend had money. Like, he was doing good for himself. He was in the military, so he walked away with some good money too. And he's getting money from the military. So I'm like, I didn't even know all this. But this is what happens when you judge with your eyes, right? So then when God was like, this is the life that you guys are going to have. This is his potential. And when God showed me, like, what we were going to become together, for a lot of you guys heard the story, but I pulled over on the side of the road and I texted him. Now, he's always been my best friend. So I texted him, I'm like, you're my best friend. I don't want anything to happen to our relationship, to our friendship. And I love you. And I sent the text. And right as soon as I text him, a text came back from him saying the same thing I sent to him. And we've been together ever since.